Alright, let's get started. Welcome to my home office tour, or at least I guess that's what I'm gonna call it. This is the first video I've been able to put out since I believe November of 2023 because I had a extended hiatus from YouTube and video making as a whole because there's just been so much nonsense in my life going on. I figured the best way to go back to making videos would be to make a video of my new office setup that I got going on here in my own home, which is what you're probably going to see most of the time when I'm making videos. And I plan on pretty much covering everything in decent detail, but I don't want to make this video too long, of everything from whatever's going on here at my desk to what I'm filming with, and even everything in between. Most of what I cover here today will probably have a link down in the description if you're interested in buying any of that stuff. This isn't an advertisement for anybody. I'm not making money off of it. This is just what I use on a daily basis with content creation, gaming, etc. Pretty much what I use in here. If anything, this will also be a nice little time capsule if I make more of these videos years down the line, as technology changes, as the stuff we use changes, anything like that. And with that out of the way, let's just dive right into it with my desk setup. Please excuse whatever cord mess I have going on under this desk down here. I'm sure somebody's gonna tell me that I need to get my act together. But let's talk about the desk that's tying everything together right now. This desk is called the Eureka Ergonomic Aero Pro wing-shaped standing desk, and it's the 72-inch model. And if you think that's a mouthful, yeah, it kind of is, because this isn't my first time trying to say all of that at once. I want to say it took a few hours to put together. I don't remember exactly how long. I mostly did it all by myself, but honestly, it's a fantastic desk. There is a few things you need to watch out for when ordering this type of desk. For example, there's one that comes with accessories, which I have. There's a without accessories model. There's a purely sitting version. There's a smaller 62-inch version. There's a lot of things you gotta check when going through the list if you want to order a type of desk like this. I do love this desk, however. The one thing I didn't know when I was ordering it was apparently it does have an app that does work with it, like a lot of things nowadays. I was honestly so glad when I finally got to put this thing together because it ended up sitting in storage for like 8 months. Before I actually brought anything else into this room, this was the first thing I put together because this thing made a mess that took the entirety of the whole room to put together. I even got to a point where I had some cardboard sitting out in the hallway because there was so much stuff that I was pretty much stepping on something every time I took a step. And just so you know, this model does come in 2 separate packages that are shipped at different times because they can't fit everything into one package because of how large it is. It does light up for those of you who love your RGB lights. However, it does do solid colors too if you just need a little bit extra light under the desk. And I do love that it comes with a full-size desk mat, so if you want to use the entire surface for a mouse pad, there you go. I do also like that both sides of the desk have a little holder for your phone or your iPad, so you have a little place to prop it up. But now let's talk about everything that sits on the desk. The most I'll say about my Bluetooth speaker is that's just where it sits when it's not in use. The Switch is going to get replaced with the Switch 2 when it comes out in June, And my Xbox, you'll see the 3 hard drives sitting there, and that is because of the numerous games that I have on said hard drives. That is 18 terabytes of games right there. Fun fact about the PS5, however, more over the hard drive. When I found the hard drive for it, I found the cord to be a little... yeah, I don't think it's supposed to bend that way. And now let's get to the meat of it all, because everything else is attached to a laptop. Or I guess I should say, 2 laptops. I'm not going to talk too much about my M1 MacBook Pro. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic machines, especially for video editing. But I don't think there's too much I can say that hasn't already been said. And then on top of that, there's newer hardware out right now that could honestly do the work better. Honestly, I plan on upgrading eventually, but this thing is still a beast years later. Honestly, the laptop I want to focus on more is my Lenovo Legion Pro 7i Gen 9. This thing can do so much and more than people give it credit for as a gaming laptop. I'll put the specs of the laptop right here, but I do want to change 2 things. The first one was that I upgraded the RAM to 64 gigabytes. The second one was that I changed the initial 1TB hard drive, cloned it to a 4TB hard drive, and then added another 4TB hard drive for a total of 8TB on this thing. Honestly, the thing's fantastic and I've had few issues with it. And most of the issues I've had have been, honestly, my own fault. And I've already had people say to me, well, why don't you just get a desktop? I kind of don't want to, and the biggest reason is the portability factor. And there are things that other PC players obsess over that I don't necessarily obsess over, and I can make compromises for it. And honestly, I'm not going to argue about this. If you don't like it that way, that's your problem. Now let's talk about the monitors attached to the laptop. They're both Samsung Odyssey G8s, the 32-inch model. They can do up to 4K 240Hz, and honestly, they're fantastic. I only have a couple problems with them that kind of make me not want to suggest them to other people. First thing being that they don't currently have DisplayPort 2.1. Even the new monitors that are smaller on the same Odyssey line that came out this year also don't have DisplayPort 2.1. So that's kind of a problem. There are some little things people nitpick, like the anti-glare coating. They seem to think that it takes color away from the screen, but honestly, I haven't found it to be much of a problem. The last major problem is mostly if you're going to buy 2 of the same monitor, and that's because of the remote. Sometimes the remote does input for both monitors instead of the one it's assigned to. Like if I hit the power button, it turns on both monitors, and sometimes that's useful if I'm going to use both monitors, but it'll also do things like sometimes it will shift the volume on both monitors as well when I only need to change on one. The biggest solution to this is just to download Samsung's SmartThings app and control each specific monitor through that app. Honestly, other than that, I love these monitors. They actually use the same operating system as the Samsung TVs, so if you like that operating system, that's a nice little bonus for you. The monitor on the left I use for all my gaming, so I set that to 4K 240. The monitor on the right, however, I can only cap out at 4K 120. And I think that's more a CPU problem than a monitor problem, because every time I try to put them both in 4K 240, I get a... And honestly, it's not really a big deal to me because both monitors don't need to be running at 240, especially when all of my gaming is done on the left monitor. Next, let's talk about the dock that has the majority of my plugins on. Right now, I'm using the Razer Thunderbolt 4 dock. This thing, honestly, is pretty great. There are 2 options when you buy this dock. The first one being the classic black that does have RGB lighting, and then there's Razer's own Mercury White that doesn't have any RGB lighting. I bought the black color because it felt like it was very uniform with everything else on my desk, and not because of the RGB lighting. I do, however, use the audio through the Razer Synapse app, because they have this cool little feature that lets you track the audio through light. Unfortunately, however, the app isn't available through Mac OS, so when I plug that into the dock, it just cycles through regular RGB lighting. This thing has 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports, a gigabit Ethernet port, a 3.5 audio combo jack, an SD card slot, and 3 USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 ports. All in all, that's a lot. The other item supplying extra ports to my laptop is my laptop cooler. And honestly, this laptop cooler feels like it's starting to get other companies to change their designs to something similar. This laptop cooler is by a company called Llano. As you can see, they put a cushion seal at the bottom of the laptop so air won't go every direction while being pushed up, and actually more goes into the laptop and pushes out, resulting in cooler temperatures. This prevents overheating so that you can push your laptop harder for longer. You can control the speed from as little as 300 RPM the whole way up to 2800 RPM, and it does get a little louder the higher it goes. Razer and a few other companies have similar products, but they tend to be more expensive, so this seems to be the one to go with. Now let's talk about how all these things are interconnected and leading back to my PC. Actually, starting with all the game consoles. I only have 2 HDMI ports and I have 3 consoles. How do I solve that problem when one HDMI is taken up by my computer? You get a switcher. Now this wasn't an easy task because I wanted one that was HDMI 2.1 and not from some random company on Amazon that I couldn't be sure if I could trust or not. Pair that with the fact that I needed 3 ports minimum, honestly wanting 4 just in case. After spending a mentally exhausting amount of time searching for one, I did find one with the KanexPro. It had the 4 HDMI ports I was looking for, it's HDMI 2.1 compatible, and it even swaps between channels to whichever console's on at the time when the others are off. Was the perfect fit. Only problem was the price tag to me, but you know what? It's worth it if you can get all your consoles in one line. But the thing is, we don't stop at the HDMI switcher. Before it actually gets to the monitor, it has one more pass-through to go to, and that's where the capture card comes in. The capture card I'm currently using is the Elgato 4KX. Honestly, I feel like no one needs this capture card yet, considering you can't use it for YouTube or Twitch or pretty much anything in between, but it is nice to be future-proofed in case you can use these sometime in the future. The Elgato capture card is connected to my KanexPro switcher through one HDMI, and through the second HDMI is connected to my monitor. I can still use my consoles even when I don't have the capture card on because it literally just uses pass-through functionality. When you have as many cables as you do under one desk, you kind of want to mess with those cables as little as humanly possible. So I don't mind having an extra device plugged in to make my life a little bit easier. So much so to the fact that when I get a Switch 2, I'm gonna want to get an extra dock just for my TV, so I don't have to mess with those cords constantly. As for the capture card, like everything else related left on this desk, it'll probably have something to do with anything content-based in the future. It's not strictly for content-based stuff, but it'll be related to it. And since I'm talking about content, let's talk about where all this stuff is going to be stored. Currently on my desk, I have a Western Digital Elements hard drive that's 20 terabytes large. That's only gonna last me so long though. Honestly, I don't expect that thing to last forever, especially if you're trying to record high quality videos, gameplay, and everything else on top of editing. I do plan on streaming content sometime in the near future, but as for right now, I do have other things I do need to focus on before I can even start doing that. And because I want to stream in the future, I do have 2 of Elgato's Stream Decks, a Stream Deck Plus and a Stream Deck XL. And why do I have 2? Because I like to press buttons, that's why. because who doesn't like to push people's buttons? And if you haven't tired of me talking about Elgato yet, congratulations, because I still have one more product to talk about, but I'm gonna make it quick. It's the Facecam Pro. Pretty straightforward, simple. It's a Facecam. It does 4K 60. There, I'm done with Elgato for now. The second to last thing I have to talk about is my Samson G-Track Pro microphone, which is on a Samson boom arm. Honestly, pretty reliable mic for a USB mic. I know people are gonna say get an XLR mic, whatever. I will say though, it is not the microphone I'm using right now to record this video. That is a different mic. We will get to that eventually. And the last thing I have to talk about for my desk is my Logitech MX Master 3 mouse. I love that thing. I don't use it for gaming though. The weird thing is, I do want to put a link for this, but I checked before editing this video and it seems like they discontinued it. So if you're interested, I will put the MX3S. It's pretty much the same mouse except for pretty much this. I don't know, it's just a nice simplistic mouse that honestly feels good on the hands. It's great after long sessions of pretty much whatever you do with a mouse. It doesn't matter what. And yeah, I mean, it's a PC mouse. What more do you want me to say? I honestly could have gone without talking about this and you wouldn't have even noticed. I forgot to talk about my High Ground Trailhead keyboard. This is the cheapest one they make. It's Amazon exclusive. Honestly, part of the reason I forgot to talk about this is because I'm not great with these small keyboards. I have terrible accuracy with them. I've been trying to get better, but I have another keyboard in mind that I want to get. And I don't know. It might be a good keyboard for you. I'll leave a link to that, and then I'll leave a link to the High Ground website. They do have some nice products on there, but I don't know. It's just not for me. It's nice. I just can't seem to get a hold of the small keyboard form factor. That's not their product problem. It's definitely 100% a me problem, and I'm just trying to work on it. But yeah, that's actually everything about my desk currently. Let's move on. Or I should say everything except for the chair. The chair is a Marvel gaming chair by, I believe the company is Neo. I couldn't find anything on this chair. It must have been discontinued. It's not the comfiest chair anyways. I plan on upgrading eventually. And now we can move on to my camera setup. While it looks like there could be a lot going on with this video camera setup, there honestly really isn't. And I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I can because honestly, a lot of it is really self-explanatory. And I'm going to start with the iPhone. Because I don't have loads of money to spend on a nice camera, I actually decided I would go with an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Phone camera qualities have gotten better over the year, and Apple is honestly one of the best. It's not my daily driver when it comes to phones though, as that's reserved for the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. And yeah, I do have two cell phones. My iPhone is actually also reserved for when I go out of town, which I use as a way for people to not be able to blow up my phone when I'm on vacation or I'm doing something important that doesn't involve them. The shot you see of these phones side by side right now is actually taken on my GoPro Hero 10. It's not something I use every day, and it's not something I usually use for these videos, so it's not really something worth talking about. When it comes to the Galaxy S24 Ultra, if I ever plan on filming with that phone, it's usually going to be if my iPhone's out of commission, or if I need to use footage with that phone to film the iPhone itself. I also have two tripods as well, but that's not because I have two phones. The first one is an Amazon Basics tripod, which I used when I was first starting out. I needed something to set my phone on while actually doing face-to-face with the camera. And the second tripod being a Cambo Photo 74-inch tripod, which is one I had to buy because I stand 6 feet tall, and the Amazon Basics tripod is only 50 inches tall, so I can't stand face-to-face with the camera looking straight onto the camera without it standing on something else. So fortunately, I don't need that second tripod to stand on something else to get the same height. I also have a gimbal, which is the Hohem iSteady M6 kit, and it's actually a really nice gimbal that comes with its own screw-in tripod. Quite a bit of the B-roll you see in this video actually does involve the gimbal itself, and honestly, it's my suggestion if you need a gimbal for your smartphone to buy. Moving on to the rig that holds the camera itself, I have an Ulanzi U-Rig Pro. Ulanzi is going to come up here a couple times because they're actually great for cheap filming accessories for your phone. But before I continue talking about Ulanzi, I do want to talk about the microphone I'm using, which is the Rode Video Micro 1. I've heard some people prefer the Video Micro 2, but if you want to save a few bucks, the Video Micro 1 is also available, and there isn't a huge gap in audio quality. But going back to Ulanzi, a lot of the light I use specifically for V-roll comes from their VL49 lights. I have two different versions. The first one is just a regular white light. Meanwhile, the second one is definitely better because it's an RGB model, which doesn't just change white light, but changes to other colors as well. As a bonus, it also has color effects, so you can get different flashing lights if you need that sort of thing as well. One more bonus that the VL49 doesn't have, that the VL49 RGB does have, is that it has a magnetic back if you want to stick it on metal surfaces instead of attaching it by the cold shoe attachment. Honestly, I'd say if you had to choose between the two, definitely go for the RGB model because it has more features to it, and it's pretty much always the same price. As for the lighting I'm using right now, I don't know what to tell you about them. See, there are 4 lights I bought off of Woot, which is Amazon's sister site for clearance items, and I got them for cheap, and they don't really have any major branding on them. The best I can do is show you the model numbers that came on the instruction booklet, and at that point, all I can tell you is that you're on your own trying to figure out where these came from exactly. These lights are a little awkward anyways because they don't stand straight. Thing is, I don't really think it matters what lights you get as long as you get the correct brightness and effect you're going for. This is just something I bought because I can't afford super fancy studio lights. Going back to focus on the rig itself, there are 2 hubs I use for my setup. The first one being the Belkin Connect USB-C to 4-port USB-C. And this one's always attached to the rig, and it is through 2 items. The first one being a Cobra Tech Unimount 360, or at least the half that holds the phone. The second half is a 1/4 inch thread screw to keep the mount attached to the rig, and I'll have a link for those screws as well. The second one is an Anker USB-C hub 7-in-1. This was a hub that I did not buy specifically for the camera setup, but I ended up using because apparently I didn't realize that the other hub doesn't have HDMI pass-through for the next thing I'm about to talk about on the list, and that's my video monitor. The video monitor I use is the FeelWorld FW759. It doesn't have the best fidelity, but you don't necessarily need it either. This is just one of those things I use when I'm in front of the camera just to make sure that there isn't any major mistakes while I'm filming myself on video. This video monitor, however, doesn't come with a power supply on its own, so I'll make sure to have a link to a power supply and a battery if you want one or the other. To connect the video monitor to the iPhone, I have this tiny little HDMI, because if I have any longer of a cable, there's just going to be slack that I could trip over. I'll make sure to have that HDMI's link as well. Even though I bought the 1TB model for this iPhone, it's not enough space for long filming sessions. So to expand upon the available memory I have on my phone, I bought a Samsung T7 Shield, a 2TB model, to make sure I have plenty of space for footage before I transfer it over to my computer. When the camera isn't on a tripod, I have the SSD connected to the bottom of the rig with one of those screws I mentioned earlier. What's holding the SSD in place is called a SmallRig SSD mount bracket, SmallRig being the brand. With the current settings I have on my camera at 4K 60, I'd say that this thing at 2 terabytes probably gets me about 4 hours of footage. If I need any more than that, I'll probably dump it onto a hard drive and start over again. That's pretty much everything on my rig, except for this tiny little remote that I didn't talk about that comes with my Cobra Tech mount. It's pretty self-explanatory, it's Bluetooth. The only thing is, it helps me start and stop video like that. We're pretty much on the home stretch, and if you're tired of hearing me talk as much as I'm tired of hearing myself talk, I just want to point out some things that are must-haves for me when it comes to my office space. The first thing I want to point out is getting an air purifier. It doesn't matter what air purifier you have as long as it's one that actually gets the job done. For me, it's the Levoy 200S Smart Air Purifier. This is just so it helps cut down the dust and the dander in the air, and honestly, it just helps me keep the place nice and tidy. And I schedule mine to have what speeds when, just to kind of help accommodate my needs with this air purifier. The second thing for me is the Govee RGB WW bulbs, and specifically these bulbs have been so great because unlike a lot of brands, apparently I don't need a hub for these. I just find it nice that you don't have to spend $100+ extra on a hub to control bulbs when these bulbs out of the box can be used with the app that works with them. I like the app and how easy it is to set things up, but from time to time it does seem to change the settings at a slow pace, but that's an okay compromise for not having to deal with needing an extra hub I don't want. I already have a million things plugged in around this room already. I don't really need one more. I also get headaches a lot, so being able to turn the lights down when I can't turn them off honestly helps a lot, especially when you have to deal with people, or work, or people, or staring at screens for a long time. Did I mention people? So this helps when I need the lights on, but not the brightest setting. Another thing that was a must-have for me was this TV stand. Even though it's got a fake fireplace, it dispenses real heat, and I just absolutely love it. Plus, it also has blue LEDs to show off whatever you have placed on the glass shelves, and since all my gaming stuff is at my desk, I figured I would just put a bunch of my collectibles around this. Another thing is this storage ottoman. Usually I'd have it in front of the TV, but lately I've been having it stored under my desk to prop my feet up when I am sitting. It's got a nice amount of space for storage, and most of the stuff that's in there is usually gaming stuff, so it's just another storage spot for me. Next we have this 3-drawer cart. I use it to keep a ton of stuff in there, like these cables, so I can live up to the mean, even though I'm not 35 yet. Some financial items, because I do some financial stuff at my desk, and just stuff for cleaning or anything else that I need to fit into these drawers that I don't put anywhere else. And the last thing I want to mention is this Skåne Beck sleeper sofa from IKEA. Even though it sits low to the ground, it's actually really comfortable. And yes, I did say sleeper sofa. The one side pulls out and the other side folds down, that somebody over 6 feet can even lay on it the whole way across. And underneath the couch, there's a little bit of space to shove under there whatever you need for a nice little nap. It was honestly hard to find furniture to fit in here with everything else, especially something that wasn't going to block that closet door. I had a really hard time doing measurements and everything, and then I eventually remembered, oh yeah, IKEA's a thing, and that just worked out. And I was really dead set on it either being a couch or a love seat or something along those lines, and somehow this worked out really well. After all the work I did to get this place into the shape it is now, this is probably going to be the place where I end up spending most of my time. I'm honestly really glad how this turned out. And if you made it this far into the video, congratulations, and I'm sorry. That felt like a lot for me to talk about, even from my end, so I'm sorry. But like I said, if there's anything you're interested in, most of the stuff I talked about today will have links in the description. And it's just something I figured I'd want to talk about. It's not anything I'm actually making money off of. I am working on getting back to having hopefully regularly scheduled videos where 1 week is just short and then the next week is a full video, and maybe some streaming here on between. And if you want to follow me on any of the social media platforms I'm on, I do have social media presence somewhere down there with all the links. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.